United States at Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I went to Eastman School of Music in Rochester. And after I finished my organ degree at Eastman, I was working around in Rochester at church jobs. I was also a university organist, where I played different, accompanied different choirs, different services. And while I was around, I decided to study voice because why not? And so I ended up being able to study at Eastman with one of the big voice teachers, and she did me a huge favor because, you know, even though a lot of us can get degrees in sacred music, church music, etc., very often we're not taught anything about how to help the singers. We're going to direct the choirs to sing their best and sound their best. And oftentimes a lot of people who are young have the natural talent, and they sound beautiful and everything, but eventually some problems insert themselves and issues happen, tension grows, and it starts to hurt to sing to the point that sometimes they have to stop singing altogether. And that is, in my view, so sad, right? And so I decided to study voice, not, you know, to become an opera singer or anything, but I did do opera after all. And that was great training and great experience. But what it taught me was how it is crucial to help our singers in our church positions to basically learn better habits, certainly hopefully learn good ones and keep good ones so that they can keep singing and they can enjoy singing. And that is easier said than done. So, however, it can be done. And no one has to necessarily go to music school for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to learn to sing well. We can learn to sing well very quickly. Like this lady taught me to sing well as a boy, you know, and I didn't even realize it, right? So that's the good news. It actually is not difficult to learn good habits and even break bad habits, old bad habits, and then implement new ones. So basically, as leaders of music in our churches, right, we are in a unique position to actually provide guidance and help. And so cantors and choirs are often required to sing across a wide range of styles, of project over instruments, whether it's a piano, an organ, or an orchestra, or sometimes even solo water throughout the day, especially on singing days. That's big for choirs, soloists. I usually tell my choristers to aim for 8 glasses a day. That's about 2 liters of water per day, especially on days when they have to do either a 2-hour rehearsal or a 2-hour rehearsal plus service. That seems like a lot, but it isn't, especially when you realize how much the body goes through and the muscles go through. Rest and recovery. I'm one of those 8 hours a night people that if I don't get 8 hours, I just don't feel well. I don't do anything well. I can't play well. So, Monday through Wednesdays, I play the 7 a.m. Mass at the cathedral. I have to be there at 6:45 a.m. That means that I have to set my alarm at 5:15 a.m. That means that I have to be in bed, lights out, like 9:15 p.m. But I know my limits. I know I need those 8 hours. 7, I'm not on, and it's broadcasting Sirius XM radio. I just cannot mess up. So not only is lateness not an option, messing up is not an option because it's broadcast, right? So, people before they have a big concert or a big Sunday, they need to budget sleep, right? But whatever their normal number of hours is, some people do very well with 6 hours. I envy them. I wish I were them. But that's fine, as long as they just definitely, prioritize sleep and avoid alcohol, whether it be, champagne, prosecco or wine or harder stuff. We really should not have that the night before singing. Even social leave like that, it's really best not to. Vocal cords, like any muscle, they need rest to recover. You may not notice it because when you speak, usually in the morning your voice is more resonant, is more, it's more resonant than later in the day, right? And it's because during the day you dehydrate. And if you forget to drink, our voice basically tells you you're not as well hydrated. So, or as well rested either, right? If you only have 4 hours of sleep the night before, and you drink a lot of water though, but your voice is not well rested from the previous day, So you can, they did nothing. They basically told me to begin sleeping on my side, and my left side, because then the stomach basically hangs that way. So if you sleep on your side, on your left side, it will not go up, right? Other people who can't sleep on their sides, for example, are told to raise the head of their mattress, all that, whatever works, avoid taking medication if you can, right? At one point I did have to, eventually the reflux became non-silent, it became very loud, and I had to take strong medication for that, but fortunately that was temporary. It was during the shutdown of the pandemic, and the stress right away was just getting to me. It exacerbated big time. And so, usually if you can just raise your mattress or sleep on your side, that takes care of that. Especially if you are not aware, but you occasionally find yourself not able to formulate easily, it could be a sign of silent reflux, acid reflux, right? And when that happens, you can feel sometimes heartburn, or you can feel persistent clearing of the throat, like you're not sick, but you keep feeling stuff. And that is a sign of reflux, even if you're not aware of it, right? Sometimes people say, oh, I just have allergies. If you don't usually have allergies, it's a sign of reflux. So that's a telltale sign. And if you have choir members that do that after they're done singing, or right before they start singing, talk to them and encourage them to be looked at by a neurocentric specialist. Exactly. And so, for that kind of thing, hoarseness, feeling a lump in your throat, all these signs, right, it's important to be looked at. But for that reason, I tell people to avoid eating large meals close to bedtime, to elevate their head during sleep, or to consult a doctor if the symptoms persist. So then there's also environmental factors. Humidity, we're just talking about how it's not as humid here as it is in Houston or New York or Washington. Dry air can be detrimental, especially air-conditioned air, right? Can be very dry. So if you live in a very dry apartment or house, consider a humidifier, especially during drier seasons like winter when there's less less humidity. But there's also allergens, and managing allergies is important to prevent vocal irritation. Allergies basically make us produce postnasal drip, which the saltiness of that ends up really irritating the vocal folds, which creates all kinds of problems and lead to strain and all kinds of bad habits. So, managing allergies. And I know there are people who do not like to take antihistamines, and they turn to natural remedies, and that's fine, as long as they work. But if they do not work, just trust science that the right amount of medication can really solve huge problems for you. So, All right. So now let's talk about the core principles of effective vocal technique. And every vocal technician, every vocal pedagogue will basically talk about these things. So you will probably think I'm rehashing what everyone else has said, and in some ways I am. But it's always good to go back to the basics, right? When a singer practices, in fact, my voice teacher always told me, Daniel, practice in front of the mirror. Make sure that your posture is right, your jaw is not doing something weird, your neck is leaning to one side, that your shoulders are right, and it is so important to remember all the basics. And so here are the basics. Posture is the foundation of singing, it's the foundation of support. So the concept is basically a relaxed and aligned body allows for efficient breath support and vocal freedom. Everybody says that. Alexander technicians, the practitioners of Alexander technique also tell you the same thing. You have to align your body, and that's begins with the spine, making sure your spine is straight, you're sitting up, you're standing up, Celine Dion.
Celine Dion, I was gonna say, I can see her, I can draw you a picture.
So everyone knows
When
Celine
you
Dion,
read that,
right?
I could remember
Yes,
this.
very well, very good. And she had very bad breathing habits, when she began to sing and became a world sensation, right? And she was having vocal fatigue, and she started studying voice with a classically trained teacher. And she kept always breathing from here. And of course that's inefficient. It's slow, it's inefficient, and it doesn't fill your lungs, as opposed to breathing from under, right? And so what she would do, and she started integrating that in her choreography, which is when she needs, at the end of a long phrase, a long note, and then she has to take a full breath for the next phrase, and she goes, she does this. She slaps her upper chest so that she doesn't use it from her, and instead she breathes down here. She doesn't do that all the time, but she did that at the Eiffel Tower when she sang for the Olympics. And it was dramatic and all that, whatever. But she integrates that, and sometimes in choir rehearsal you can also make people experiment with that so that they know not to use that in the breath, and instead they breathe down here. It's sort of a sensory way to break old habits, right? If that makes sense. Right. And if you're concerned about how that looks, so Celine Dion does it all the time. She looks great doing it. So don't worry about it. So back to breath management. Another way for them to become aware of proper breathing is to take one of those deep underneath the lung breaths, silently and deeply, and then exhaling with a gentle sigh, silently. But they do that slowly, that way they understand, they experience the diaphragm, right? That is key to proper breathing. So whatever exercises you can do to teach them to become aware of that diaphragm and how to use it, that is crucial. Another good exercise, and kids would love doing that, was to take a full breath in, and then exhale slowly on a prolonged S sound that maintains the consistent airflow like this. I would make them do this with the core muscles, but they would sustain the but keeping the S going, the hissing sound going, right? That ensures that you learn to use the diaphragm under your lungs. Because if you don't do that, if you're only breathing from the throat, there's no way you can sustain the hissing sound, right? So those are very effective tools to break old habits, become people aware of the new and the right habits, right? And people, the reason I also like to do this is because it keeps the focus on the engagement of the core muscles, if that makes sense, right? The core muscles need to be constantly engaged. They're sort of like a reservoir of an organ, right, that fills with air, and then there are the springs, right, that keep maintaining that air pressure. So the core muscles are that, right? That's what maintains the proper breath. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes singers and choirs, they sing a beautiful phrase, and then they get to the last note of that phrase, and then some kind of trembling starts happening in the pitch. And that's because they're already relaxing their core muscles. They're sustaining it through the throat, but they're relaxing it down here. And unfortunately, when they do that, it pollutes the tuning, obviously, but it also ends up slowing down the next intake of air, right? They should actually sustain that breath all the way through the last note, and then into the next inhale, right? If they keep that muscle engaged, the diaphragm engaged, then it's all that much easier to actually then reverse its motion to fill the lungs with air. That's especially useful if they only have like an eighth rest to take a big breath for the next long phrase, right? They have to sustain it and cut off, and then they can keep going, right? But if they relax the muscle, the core muscle, and on the last note, then unfortunately that muscle is on break, and it's no longer engaged, and then having to, it takes longer, it also makes more noise, whereas if they are singing a note, probably have
Right.
not used controllable muscles
Exactly.
for a long time, many, many years. And so slowly at first and for short periods, and then they take a break and then do it again, and then they try to get a little faster and a little longer at a time.
Right.
But I think that's where it begins. And yeah, and if they keep doing it to the point that they're lightheaded, then they're doing it too much, and they need to do it less. But that is where it starts, you know. I mean, there are singers who have sung to their 70s, opera singers who will be able to keep singing, and
But you have to keep it.
exactly, and it's sort of like leg muscles to keep walking into an old age. You have to keep those exercised as well, and the diaphragm is one of those that is so essential for health, for everything. But yeah, I think for they should just make sure that they're standing well, though, and you know, if they can. Now, some of them unfortunately have canes. I know some people have canes, and it makes them lean forward a little bit. If they can try, because if they are standing truly tall, then it will be easier to use that. If they are collapsed like that, it makes it harder to play. So I hope that helps in their situation. Resonance is the tool that we use in vocal technique to amplify our sound. It's easy to not think about resonance when we are in a mic environment, right? Right now, because I'm not mic'd, but at least it's a small room, it's not hard for me to be resonant, right, without much effort. But in a much bigger room, like the one we were in for the opening service, if I hadn't been mic'd and I needed to speak, I would have had to engage my full resonance, which is basically using the natural vibratory spaces in my head and my chest to amplify and enrich my voice, right? So I would have had to do this. I'm focusing and utilizing every vibratory inches of my body so that my voice goes all the way down to row Z. I don't mean to sound aggressive, just demonstrating the point, right? And so it's easy it's easier to be resonant in a very generous room that has a lot of reverberation. It's a lot more tiring in a room that absorbs sound. So people need to be very well aware of how to amplify their resonance, because in a room that is not generous, that absorbs sounds, they need more resonance, right? And so a way to develop your resonance, or become aware of your resonance, is to do some gentle humming, to feel the vibrations in your facial mask, your nose, your cheeks, your forehead. So basically, but it needs to become useful and smart humming. You need to, how about in rehearsal, in the choir room, find that maximize optimal humming. Now I just found the optimal humming. Therefore, if I keep that same space to resonate. If I sing a note like that, it will be very resonant. Even if it's not very loud, it will be resonant. Because I found a space where it resonates, right? Every singer, hopefully, can find that resonant space. And So initiate sounds smoothly and without excessive tension or breathiness, right? So we want people to, when they phonate, they don't force, they don't push, right? It needs to be a nice, relaxed sound, pleasant, like that, right? We want people to avoid harder glottal attacks, like some people do that, without training. Usually, it's something to watch out for. If you ever hear people sometimes they try to find a pitch through a consonant that they hold like that. So things that you want them to become aware of, so that they don't do it, because it just doesn't sound clean. It doesn't sound right. And then, for example, though, if they need to think of their next pitch, they can just start on to themselves, or it's a very private experience. That way, they don't make that in an audible way, if that makes sense. And then there's articulation and diction. So clear pronunciation enhances intelligibility and vocal projection. So yes, understanding basically how to produce the right vowel, right? So that it doesn't sound bizarre. Like some people do funny things with like Sometimes I ask people to sing for me, who audition for me as a cantor. I said, could you sing for me this vocal, very simple vocalese on the ah vowel, as in we're all in ah, A-W-E, of how beautiful the weather is today. And you would be surprised at the very weird vowels that I might get. Some people go, oh, and it just needs to be relaxed. Open the jaw, relax the jaw, go for the pure vowel. It's that simple, right? And people tend to overcomplicate things, especially with closed E, closed A, or open vowels, closed vowels. Just disengage this and just go for the pure vowel. I know it's easier said than done, but it can be done. If you see people doing weird things with their mouths, it's probably going to sound weird as well, right? And so, also some people tend to over-articulate consonants, and then the other consonants, like the P's and the B's and the V's, tend to be not heard at all. I don't know what it is about, and that is so satisfying. But it is, I guess, because it's easy and it's very little effort, and I guess it's maximal effect. But the other consonants need more focus, like and things like that. So I think people becoming aware of not overdoing some things but overdoing the ones that are harder to hear is a very hard one to do at the end of the word, like ka, plosive, right? I think people focus on these things goes a long way. So now, practical applications for cantors and choirs. Warm-up routines, those are so important, especially with people who don't have formal vocal training. And again, there's nothing wrong with not having formal vocal training. Not everyone can go to music school and get a degree and study voice, and that's perfectly fine. But even athletes warm up before they start running, before they start lifting, before they start doing anything, right? It's part of who we are as human machines. We just have to kind of lightly get into place. Like even when I play the piano, I will warm up, I will do scales. The same thing at the organ, I move my ankles. We just have to do things so that they're on. Actors, before they get on stage, before they go, speaking from a camera, they practice diction. That's what we have to do. And we should never skip those. But that's why also choirs need to arrive on time at rehearsal, so that we don't miss those all important vocal warm-ups and tuning exercises, right? I think that's it defeats the purpose when they miss those, right? So it's important to make sure that people don't take start time for granted. That gentle movement, I start rehearsals with the gentle neck rotation. practice that language is to breathe, to sing together, and to make a joyful sound, right, together. And that is a magical moment when it happens. And when people laugh, I know that they're finally getting in the zone. So that's I think the very important thing to do. Now then switch to breathing awareness, to silent breaths, like I indicated, like or whatever pattern you can create that breaks the routine and keeps it fresh. That people love hissing exercises. I don't know why, but they love it. And also lip trills forces you to breathe from the diaphragm. If you only breathe from here, you can't sustain it. You run out of air. You take a full breath from under the lungs. And it tickles the face and everything. And also it makes people giggle and laugh. And you know that people are enjoying it. It's fun and it feels good. That humming, like people also then do that, and they do it at their own speed. There's no right or wrong pace at which to ride, but it starts stretching the vocal folds and it makes them engage the core muscles as they raise the pitch. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, that's the key, right? But it makes people make noise in a way that is safe, especially when their mouth is closed. It forces them to really support. And then what I do is the first sound I make them do once they've done all of this, I make them face forward again, and I want everyone to sing one note in unison, and then they all take a breath. And you will hear everything from people doing all kinds of weird things, and then make them zero in on the one note. You would be surprised at how long it can take some people to focus on just one note in unison. Straight tone too. Make them remove all that. And that once, after a couple of tries, everyone sustaining that no is on, and you will end the choir with some good that day. Because that engages the left brain, the brain of awareness, of management, of calculation and attention, analytical brain, right? And then they're on, that you're intellectually engaged. That's what I call smart singing. Because there's no point if we're just going to we're going to as well as be goats. But if we're going to make a joyous sound to the Lord, face voice down in pitch and volume, just so that you don't finish rehearsal with a big chord and then people just stop singing. You know, it will speed up healing and rest if you just do some kind of very easy, like, and you add, very piano. Just that brief thing, just, athletes do that after they've done a big workout, a big exercise, and they just do something very simple. And that's how they close the scene and the exercise of singing, right? And that has proven benefits. Renee Fleming had a masterclass at Eastman, said that she always does a gentle hum after a big practice session with a coach or a conductor. She just does her own little thing just to close the voice. And then she goes into vocal nap and vocal rest. And then she does something fun, and she forgets it. Also, there's a yawn side that is very helpful for people who don't have yet. Great technique. And I know it doesn't look good, but it releases all the tension that accumulated when people sang. And that again will help them go home and not feel tension, not feel tired. Like, wow, I'm getting too old for this. It will actually avoid a lot of that, right? It's just good habit. Managing vocal fatigue. Listen to your body. If your voice feels tired or strained, you need rest. Same as your body. If you physically feel tired or strained, just rest. Right? It's that simple. So same thing. If people feel vocally tired, they should stop talking. They should stop singing. They should just respect silence. Accept that for a moment, you're not going to exhale, and you'll be okay. Right? People are very afraid of silence a lot of times, right? And people who are, by the way, always vocally tired, they're always talking. They're afraid of silence. So it's an important thing for them to become aware of. And silence is golden. Not for the reasons that you think, but because, it's benefits you. Right? So, pacing, don't push your voice beyond its limits. It's tempting that, we can keep going, and if we don't get that thing right, we just keep practicing. Unfortunately, your voice needs rest every now and again. So, pace yourself. Same thing at the piano or the key or the organ, right? Sometimes you're tired physically and you want to keep going. You'll benefit from taking a 5-minute break. So that's why I think it's good to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in the middle of rehearsal, just for people to not necessarily go crazy and laugh and all that, but just to relax and rinse the brain. It's very beneficial. Strategic silence, yes, take vocal breaks during long rehearsals or multiple services. I think the more breaks, the better. You can only do that 1, 2, 3 minutes long, and then go right back. It's very effective. Microphone use, Cantors. I think it's important to utilize the microphone effectively to avoid over singing. And I recommend people who sing with the mic to find the proper distance between them and the mic so that they can still support, not undersing, but they also don't oversing. And they may need your feedback as to where they should stand vis-a-vis the mic. Before service, if you can go out there and listen, I think it's important. And then addressing common challenges, hoarseness and loss of voice. If persistent, we talked about that, consult an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Preferably one specializing in voice. Not every ENT is created equal. Right? In New York, we're very lucky because there are 2 major opera companies, including the Metropolitan Opera, but Carnegie Hall has a lot of singers that are constantly performing there. So New York sees a lot of professional singers who need ENTs that know the voice and singers and understand how something can affect a singer so much more than a regular person who doesn't sing, right? But you can't always find someone. So a or stand, and then it's solved. Right? Over singing and shouting, yeah, that happens a lot, especially with people who don't have proper posture or proper technique, right? So then I encourage healthy projection through resonance and breath support rather than pushing from the throat. And in some cases, I encourage people to seek local training, because sometimes they don't want to take that advice from you as the church musician. They know you, so it doesn't count. I've encountered that where, some people, they want to do better, but they don't want to take your advice for it. So I recommend that they take voice lessons, from the local music school. A lot of music schools have community programs, right, where someone from the community can just take lessons. Right, the student will teach lessons, and sometimes they have great skills, great, things to teach. Long-term vocal care. Well, there's no substitute for regular practice, and so that's why it's good for people who are in the church choir to keep coming regularly, right? Taking a month-long break, everyone has lives and all of that, but I think if they commit to the regularity of the commitment, they will certainly, their voice will also be better and stronger. But unfortunately, there's a lot that we cannot do in terms of forcing people to stick to it, right? A lot of volunteers feel that, I'm doing this because I'm doing you a favor, because I happen to have time right now, and my family isn't too busy at the moment, right? I mean, there's all kinds of issues, but regularity tends to lead to better singing. That's a fact. Yes, seek guidance. I often tell people to take voice lessons so that they get personalized feedback, right? Because not everyone needs the same feedback, and some singers have certain habits that really need their own attention. Collaboration. Yes, I like to discuss vocal health and technique with other musicians and leaders to find out what they know, because I only know what I know, and I'd love to, find out what you guys think as well. And I'm almost done, so that then we can turn to Q&A and feedback. But lead by example. I think it's good for us, choir directors, church music leaders, to lead by example, and that straddle and sort of to a G, like the top
Or
of
like
the.
over singing in the case of that, I can think of where the women had sung really, really loudly for a long time.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, over singing you can do that, and therefore we can't take retention anymore. So you also have bubbles that are like from people who are afraid of not tuning just right, so they go, right? They think that one of the vibrations is going to hit it. They also think that that may be beautiful, so when you deal with that, that's a problem, and you have to kind of educate people to think, realize actually go for a more straight tone, you know, this, and you're hearing 5 different pitches here, right? So find the one, you know, help them zero in and engage support. That is often the result of relaxed core muscles. And it does help when you make people become aware of the core muscles. To them, a lot of the time, the term core muscle is completely foreign and means nothing. But the waddling is usually the result of relaxed core muscles, unengaged core muscles, right? And so the voice needs to do this in order to not tense up and block. But that is a frequent occurrence.
I've had several people in my choirs. One of them though was like she was in the airman of note, like Air Force choir. Amazing jazz singer, but got into her 70s and still thought she could sing like super high notes. How do you tell someone who's like a professional? It's not there anymore. So difficult with it.
You know,
That's more of a pastoral thing too than
I mean, I think a gentle approach, and it's a very difficult conversation to have. But I think if she is a professional, she will be open to your feedback, especially if your feedback is accompanied, comes from a place of support and a place of understanding and admiration for the longevity that she's had. I would say record,
Oh, yes.
you know, and say, hey, I just thought I would record, I would like you to hear, you know, to this, whatever,
Very
you know,
effective.
and I'm happy to talk with you about it, but I think you might hear some issues, you know, and, you know, I think it's a lack of, obviously she's not aware of how she's
yeah.
Maybe if you found something else that she's very good at still, and you could balance it with singing, you know, maybe instead of that, maybe we could really stress this, so that would be, you know, this is what we're going to concentrate on with you, so that you can, you know,
right. I think that's great.
be positive.
Proposing something, something else to focus on.
And
That's
something
good.
you can value still about her, you know.
Oh, of course, it has to come from a place of support. You know, the problem with singing oftentimes is that it generates vibrations throughout our body, and the vibrations feel great, even if we sound like
Yeah.
it still feels great. And it feels, you know, it's like a bone massage, and it is such a pleasure. We derive such a pleasure from singing,
Exactly.
even if we don't sound good, we still
Even if you're
love
not
it.
doing it right.
And it's the right brain that feels that joy and that pleasure, right? The right brain is the hemisphere of joy, of emotions, of love, of, you know, joy. The left brain is obviously the one that's calculating and analyzing and, you know, managing and no time for joy, right? And so she's obviously still feeling the vibrations and the joy, the release and the endorphins from singing, but she doesn't realize how she sounds. So yeah, maybe proposing a different tessitura, maybe, you know, some singers sometimes benefit from
Yeah.
upgrading from soprano to alto, for example, you know.
We're going to count on you for this as opposed to what, yeah. and they can come and for a couple of hours, they can feel good. Even when they're not in a good place.
It's a wonderful ministry, and there's so much to feel better about in the world nowadays. That I'm sure that's.
And we
that's
found some
good.
people that really, they have nice places, they just haven't really listened.
Wow. Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. Yes.
So you wake up on Sunday morning and you've got crud, phlegm, grain. Somebody told me onion, lemon, and suggestions. Trying to clear that out after focusing on Sunday.
Yes. So on Sunday morning, I don't usually sing actually, but occasionally I've had to sing for things because big funeral just laying on our lap. We only have like 6 hours to put it together, and so I ended up being the cantor because I'm the one who's expected if you write and sing, just like it was. And though that morning when it happens, I don't drink coffee. I drink green tea because green tea still has caffeine, but it actually doesn't dry out the voice and all that. But I also have environmental allergies. I also have 2 cats, and I'm allergic to cats. I mean, I'm managing it. I have allergy shots, all of that. But you know, I will take a Zyrtec, and then also nasal antihistamine spray. And yes, it's drugs, it's prescription, but it's safe.
But it's worth it if you can
It's
have
worth
it.
it. And exactly, and it's safe. Those are safe, you know, and they help me be free and sing my best, you know.
Sometimes if you feel like it's drying out too much, sometimes I'll take it before bed the night before, and it's a 12-hour thing, so I take it, or not, you really?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
If I did it.
It's so contrary to all the water, which I agree with very much.
It can dry you out. So what I drink is I take a bottle of water and I add electrolytes to it. Propel packets. Propel. It's like Gatorade minus the sugar and minus the coloring. It has some flavoring, but it's not the flavoring. And you just pour one little packet of powder
Okay,
into
so
the bottle.
I never thought about electrolytes.
And it's basically
It gets into you.
better, faster drinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
So you don't drink too much water and pee all the time. You know, but you're hydrated.
Manage this.
Exactly. But it
I
hydrates
can't
you.
leave while I'm singing.
Correct. But it hydrates you faster.
Right.
And that's basically what high-level athletes do. You know,
Correct.
when they have a long
And we need to think more
marathon.
like that. Yes, it's good. That's good.
Yeah. Great question.
Good question.
Well, thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
here
This
today.
is awesome.
Oh,
This is
good.
wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna read this book.
Great, yeah. Singing for love music.